It's a somewhat cool and rainy day today, but we're going to go ahead and take a little garden tour so that you can see what's been going on with our potatoes and our rhubarb and everything else that we've been doing over the last couple of months. First, if you remember, back in the middle of April, we decided we were going to transfer our garden over to the Ruth Stout method, and the first thing we did in the middle of April was plant potatoes with the Ruth Stout method. And take a look at how it's doing now. Check this out. If you remember, we planted some of them in, we put some compost down and then planted the potatoes. And down the middle, we just threw the potatoes on the ground. We didn't put any compost down or anything, just to try and experiment to see. You can see the ones we planted in compost have really come up. And again, I have not watered these potatoes since the middle of April. So these have just all been going on their own with whatever rain we get and the hay to keep the moisture in. But if you look at the middle row, you can see that they are coming up, even just like throwing them on the ground and covering them with hay. We do have some that are now poking through in the middle. Not as good as the ones that we threw down in compost, but that will change next year because in the fall we will throw down some more hay and then pretty much everything will have some compost to grow in. So this is turning out to be doing really well. Now, if you remember, I did a video because my rhubarb was having so many problems and just not getting big or anything, and I did a video on throwing some compost on them and then covering those with a bed of hay, just like the Ruth Stout method. So let's check these out. So now look at this rhubarb. It is so much better than it was last year. I have picked some of the rhubarb. I heard that picking some of the stalks will help it to develop new growth. So I did come out here just earlier today and picked some of it, but I can already tell that in the years to come, this is just going to keep getting better and better just by throwing compost on and hay. Here's the cabbage and the broccoli that we planted a few weeks ago. It's going gangbusters. It's really looking good, except I noticed one plant, this guy right here, he's getting a little something's munching on it. And so what I'm going to do is come back in here with some diatomaceous earth and put that around all of the plants, hopefully deter whatever it is that's been nibbling on that. But that's why we have them in the net. We have them in the net so that the cabbage butterflies can't get to them, but they do seem to like it out here. In this next bed, I planted beets, and then we've got tomatoes going on down there. But I planted the beet seeds and watered them in and then covered it with hay so that they could germinate. And that method seemed to work really well for germination. I don't know if they're still tiny. I uncovered the hay because I noticed they were trying to poke through, having a hard time. So I uncovered the hay, and once they get a little bit bigger, we will put the hay back down. And over here along there, you see the cucumbers we planted probably yesterday for you guys. The tomatoes in this bed are delicious tomatoes, in every sense of the word really, including the type. But you can see that they are looking really good. Once they get to the height of these drainage tiles, the tiles will come off and we'll put some cages around them. I ordered some taller, hopefully stronger cages for this year. And so hopefully it won't be as much of a jungle because I've spaced them better and they'll have better cages. This is a container of nasturtium and borage that I haven't gotten planted yet. I'm not sure where I'm going to put them yet. And now over here to the onion bed. I've got a couple of beets growing in there too, but the onions look fabulous. And at this point, I can say that the starts on that side of the bed maybe are a little bit bigger than the set that I planted over here, but not much. We're going to be doing a video this week. I'm going to come back in here and show you how I'm going to try to promote bigger onions out of these. In some of my videos from last year when I tried the square foot gardening, some of you commented about purslane and me pulling it out and saying that it was very nutritious and something that is edible. And so I want you to check out my compost pile. This bin contains compost. And I am just going to go ahead and let the purslane grow. And we're going to try that in some of our salads. So yes, we do have a lot of purslane still, even though I'm covering in the beds with hay to keep it from growing. Here I guess will be our crop of purslane. Bed number 4 is a really small old water tank, animal water tank that we just filled with some compost and some dirt. And in here I've got the Cherokee purple and the early girl tomato. Those I bought at a greenhouse. So we'll see how they do. I love the early girl tomato. I'm not so sure about the Cherokee purple because I've never grown it, so I'm excited to see how that will come along. Before I show you bed number 5, I want to show you something exciting that I found when I was mowing the lawn. Last year I divided my rhubarb in the spring and I planted some in another spot to see if we could get another rhubarb patch going, and I thought that the grass had choked everything out. But when I was down here mowing, I noticed that 2 of them had survived. So we've mulched around them. The other one is over here. So we've mulched around those. And then something else exciting that I noticed growing was mullein or mullein. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But mullein is like super beneficial health-wise. So we've mulched around that too. We're going to see if we can get that going and maybe get some seeds off of it. So this is bed number 5. In bed number 5, we've got beefsteak tomatoes. Those seem to be doing really well. And then at the other end, we've got carrots that we just planted that should be germinating, and we'll show those to you once they start coming up. Over here along the greenhouse, it's a little grassy right now, but this plant right here, that is horseradish, and we love horseradish. And so we've got horseradish growing all along the side of the greenhouse here. We did harvest it once before. We'll probably harvest it in the late fall again this year. The longer you wait, the hotter and more potent the horseradish is. And if you let it go through a couple of freezes, it's even better. So we'll probably harvest some of that this year also. Here is the other side of the greenhouse. I'm probably 4 or 5 years ago, we planted some asparagus in here. And this is something that we really need your advice on. You see there's a lot of overgrowth in here, but you see that there are asparagus stalks going to seed there. But we have an issue with the asparagus coming up really thin, like pencil thin, and just not a lot. There's probably 6, maybe 7 asparagus plants left in here that are actually growing. But we're not sure how to get a handle on it. Maybe we just start over. But how do you guys grow asparagus? What do you do with your asparagus? Do you do heavy mulch so it doesn't crowd around it? When I was little, we used to just go find the asparagus in the ditches and pick it that way and eat it. And in ditches, they don't mulch. And there's a lot of grass and growth around them in ditches. So I guess I just don't understand why ours aren't more productive. So give me some advice if you have some. Before we leave our garden area down here, I want to show you one more thing that I found growing wild that I think will be interesting to try. Around this old garden gate, I noticed every time I mowed down here last year that it smelled like onions. And what we've got is onion grass growing down here. It is an edible, and at some point in the near future, we'll be digging some of this up and trying it in some cooking. That's it for now from our little raised bed garden. And if raised bed gardening, a small raised bed garden interests you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because there will be a lot more to come. See you next time.